Hi, everyone. It's Carol Richard here, the founder of the Sleep Success Academy. And welcome to this YouTube channel where I share things that I discover along the way or questions that people ask me on how to improve the quality of our sleep. Because when we're not sleeping, life is not very fun. And so, how can we help ourselves sleep better? And this is the purpose and my intention with this YouTube channel. And what I have for you today is an interview that I did with Connie. She's a wellness coach, and she is developing this 12-week wellness program for her clients. And one week she wanted to talk about sleep. Knowing that she's not the expert on sleep and she doesn't have all the answers, she came to me to see if I would actually be interviewed and have this interview put in her program. I agreed, and in return, she generously gave me a copy of that recording that I want to share with you today. And so it's here. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it helps you. She has some really good questions in there. And during the interview, I talk about the three components to better sleep, which are your emotional well-being, your mindset, your behavior. That is really what I believe we need to look at in order to improve the quality of our sleep. And I'm living proof of that. I look at those three components in every area of my life now, not just my sleep. And the results have been amazing. And I'm getting the same results with my clients. So when you watch this video, and if you want to know more about those three components, if you go to my website, sleepsuccessacademy.com, there's actually a free resource tab. When you click on that tab, it will bring you to the free presentation I did. I believe I called it the 3 key ingredients because I was talking about chocolate cake in there. So I changed the word component to ingredients, but for better sleep. And so just you can download it. There's no gimmick attached to it. You just put your name, email address, and you'll get a copy of that free presentation in your email. And it will subscribe you to my email list, but no, you can unsubscribe at any time if you don't want any further news from me. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Well, Carol, I'm so excited that you're joining me today because I've referred clients to you and I've learned so much from you. I've implemented some of the suggestions you do, and I'm sleeping better because of it. Actually, I was sleeping too much, and your recommendations really helped me. So I'm really excited, and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, I'm excited too because I love talking about sleep and everything sleep related and how to help people get the sleep they want, right? Because, like you said, sometimes you can sleep too much
Yeah.
and not be aware that you're actually messing up your sleep by sleeping too much.
Right, right. And so
Yeah.
setting an alarm is a really good thing for me. So so
Yeah.
that's all it took. It's funny when you work from home, sometimes you don't think about that. But so I
Yeah.
have a list of questions I would like you to ask, and it's based on some of the questions that my clients have had and some of the information that seems to be the key question. So can you tell us briefly, just introduce yourself and explain what led you to become a sleep coach?
Yeah, well, I have an interesting journey. I come to this work from experience. um, Back in 2017, I had to stop working because I hadn't slept in years and years and years. And I never realized how I was never really a good sleeper, but that had events happen that made it so that my body stopped sleeping. A very stressful job. My mother-in-law had a heart attack and wasn't well, and she's just like my mom, so it was very hard. And my teenage son was going through stuff, teenagers, and working 80 hours in a week. And so my body became so hyper aware of everything of, as a mom and a woman in a household, like I got to cook supper, I've got to get everything done. And I stopped sleeping because there was no way I could calm down enough going to bed at night to start sleeping. And then I did so many things that we're going to talk about today, like drinking coffee. Now, this is tea, but drinking coffee all day long and then expecting to go to sleep, right? But so much stimulation in my brain from the caffeine and not knowing that it was affecting me. And so when I finally decided to fix my sleep, I didn't decide. Actually, the universe did that for me because it made me lose sensation in my hands and feet from the lack of sleep. So I went to my doctor and I was like, oh, and she's like, you don't have a brain tumor. That's not what's going on, right? She's reassuring me. She's like, I've been telling you for months, you can't keep going at that pace. You need to slow down and stop. And so she put me on sick leave here in Canada. And where I worked at the time, I could actually go on sick leave, sick benefits, and still receive a paycheck because I had so much accumulated sick time that I hadn't used. So that made the decision easier for me, because if I depended on my paycheck and all of a sudden I didn't have it, I don't know what I would have done. And so I stopped working, found EFT tapping, which we'll talk about, started changing things in my life. And then after tapping like crazy, like mad at the beginning, because I was so, and I actually got worse before I got better. Because when I stopped working, not only was my sleep really bad, then I started having panic attacks, because you can't go 100 miles an hour and then boom, stop everything thinking that you're going to be better overnight. And so then I started tapping, regulating my nervous system, doing some research on trauma. And I'm going to use the word trauma in today's talk about anything that dysregulates the nervous system.
Okay.
If trauma is not actually, the event that's happened, because you can have a car accident and not have trauma from it, but I'll have a car accident and have trauma because it dysregulated my nervous system where it didn't do it for you. And so in that sense, I had a lot of little traumas, little things that happened, but so many of them that it was overwhelming to my nervous system. And so when I stopped working, found EFT, decided I wanted to be an EFT practitioner, did not want to work with people on sleep. They say pick your niche, and I was like, I ain't helping people with sleep. Yet people kept coming to me with sleep issues. And I actually had someone say to me one day, whatever glow you've got going on and whatever how you made that happen, I want that. And I'm like, well, I'm sleeping, right? Like I'm sleeping and I'm using tapping to help me sleep. And so then I started studying sleep, started researching sleep, got really passionate about sleep because I know how I feel today compared to what I felt back then. And I know it's possible for everyone, yet there has to be decisions and you have to want to make the changes in your life, right? Because one of my famous quote, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting what you've always gotten.
Right.
And so if you want better sleep, then what is it that you have to look at in your life to get you to that better sleep? So that's how I came into this coaching. I'm an emotional success coach. I took transformational coaching courses. I took name the courses because I didn't know how to coach. I knew I wanted to help people sleep, but I didn't know how to coach. And I came from the corporate world. So now I had to be a business owner. And so over the years, I've managed to figure it out and really enjoy my workday now because it's not stressful. And I get to communicate with people every day and help them sleep. And it's always amazing to get that I slept last night email, right? So
Right. Oh, how
yeah.
exciting. Yeah, quite a journey.
Quite a journey.
Wow, that's great. So what are some misconceptions about sleep that you run into with your work and the clients that you work with?
That's a good question because there's a lot of misconception. I think people think that they should be able to fix their sleep in a session, or they should be able to just sleep. And they forget sometimes that, we haven't slept for 10 years. I'm not going to fix that overnight. So that's one misconception. The biggest part, though, is thinking that our behaviors are the cause of our sleep issue. I think that's probably the biggest misconception. They think, oh, it's because I watch TV at night. Oh, it's because I'm having blue light from my cell phone. Oh, it's because, I stayed up too late, which that can be a part of it, but it's not the reason you're not sleeping. So they don't actually look at their emotional well-being, which is the state of their nervous system, right? They don't actually add behaviors that are conducive to sleep. They just try to either add a medication or a behavior like wearing those blue light blocking glasses. I mean, if you're stressed all day at work, you tell me that wearing those glasses before bed is going to help you sleep, right? That's the misconception. They don't put in with what they've done all day, because sleep begins the moment we wake up. I'm going to say that again, right? Sleep begins the moment we wake up. It's what we do all day that allows us to fall asleep or not. And people think, oh, if I just don't watch TV for the last half hour before sleep, I'll be able to sleep. But they've carried all this stuff all day. And so that's probably the two biggest misconception. They don't realize that what they do all day affects their sleep. And the second one is wearing blue light blocking glasses and changing those types of behaviors won't fix your sleep.
Interesting. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's a misconception I had. So
Yeah.
that it was my behaviors that were causing issues. And some of the clients too. And then they must feel guilty, blame themselves, and get that whole thing going too.
Right, because then it causes limiting beliefs. It causes actually even blocking beliefs that are, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
It's not possible for me to fix my sleep because I've tried everything, but what they've tried is behavior. And so I'll kind of add something here, and I know we've got lots of questions, but this I think is important. I came up with this framework where I look at three components to better sleep. So I know we're going to talk about my website, and if people want to go on my website, sleepsuccessacademy.com, and go to the free resources tab, there's actually a presentation that they can register for free. And in it, I talk about the three key ingredients to better sleep. And the reason I said ingredients in the presentation is because I talked about if you make a chocolate cake and you don't have chocolate, well, you're not going to have a chocolate cake, right? You need the right ingredients, and you need the right amount of flour compared to sugar, compared to whatever. And what if we took our sleep and looked at it as a chocolate cake? Well, the three key ingredients are your emotional well-being, which is the state of your nervous system and your emotions. The second one is your mindset, which are your thoughts and beliefs. And the last one are your behaviors. And how can we look at the three of them in a holistic approach and make sure that we actually deal with the one that's the issue for me? Because it might be my behaviors. And if it is my behaviors, then I found the root cause. But 99% of the time, it's not behaviors, it's the state of their nervous system, which is their emotional well-being. And so we start there. Like in every program I run, we start with how do I grow the capacity of my nervous system so I can feel my emotions and release that stress, to change my mindset, and then behaviors, they automatically change. You don't even have to work at changing your behaviors. You don't have to force them. It just happens because you're now more regulated, more at peace. You have that inner calm. So it automatically changes your behaviors.
Wow, that sounds very freeing.
It is, but you have to look at all components.
Right.
I just really wanted people to be aware of that. And if they go watch that free presentation as additional homework for this program, they'll learn more about what each of them are. And then they can start questioning themselves, right? Is it my emotions that are keeping me awake? Is it stuff from the past? Is it current stuff? All that can be like flushed out to get to that root cause of your sleep issues.
Okay, great. And you kind of answered this, but how do you think sleep coaching differs from other approaches to address sleep, such as medication or self-help techniques?
Right. And so medication is not good or bad. I want to say that medication, there's a place for medication. If I say had a sudden death in my family and it was a big shock to my nervous system, so we consider that a shock trauma because it's like something big happened. Medication has a place in that moment to help me as a resource to get through that event so that I can then move on with life, right? But medication for a long term becomes a coping mechanism. And the difference between a coping mechanism and a resource is a coping mechanism is something that I'm taking because I'm wanting to like manage and cope with life, represses our emotions. But if I'm using it as a resource, it's allowing me to express the emotions I'm feeling to be able to feel better. And so you have to look at medication that way. Am I using it as a coping mechanism? And I'm not educated in medication. I'll put it that way. So it has to be with your naturopath, with your doctor, with your psychiatrist, whoever, whatever medication they're on. And we're talking about like anxiety medication as well as a melatonin over the counter. Like all of that for me is in the same pot where I don't recommend them and I'm not against them. It's you have to decide what's good for you. But sleep coaching is different in a sense of we're actually looking for the root cause. Those kind of are just a band-aid. And those people who go that route, which I did too. Like, look, I was on sleeping medication when I couldn't sleep. I used to take 2. That was the limit I could take. And if I wasn't so by the book, I probably would have taken 3. But I didn't want to chance it, right? And I still couldn't sleep because I was just putting a band-aid on it, thinking it would solve my sleep issues. And they say after 2 weeks, your sleep medication is just a placebo. It doesn't help your sleep anymore. And so that's how sleep coaching is different, is we're not looking for that band-aid solution, a quick fix. My goal is to provide you with tools and education and techniques to give you a forever sleep, meaning that if you sleep well 80% of the time for the rest of your life, you've got good quality sleep, knowing that things will happen and my sleep will be disrupted. So it's also a mindset shift. Is not the medication and stuff has a desperate energy. Please fix my sleep. Like, people come to me and they have this desperate energy, like, I just want to sleep, like whatever it takes. And then I'm like, oh, you have to sit and orient and, tap. And they're like, I want to sleep today. Well, that's not possible, right? My goal is to teach you a way to make this your own medicine, really, your own detective on what caused me to be awake last night, with a curious lens and saying, okay, I had too much coffee in the afternoon, therefore I'm going to try something different today. Right. So that's how it differs. It's like the difference between the two for me.
And I really am happy to hear you talk about getting to the root cause, because that's what functional medicine is all about too. And I know your clients as well as mine, they want the quick fix. They want the joint pain to go away tomorrow. And it's taken 6, 7, 8 years to get there, and it's inflammation and all of that. So I'm really happy to hear, but it's not a quick fix. None of this is a quick fix at all. It's interesting.
And I will say that there are exceptions.
Okay.
Are exceptions because if my lack of sleep is caused by, say, say I had good sleep all my life, and I was someone who was I had a very regulated nervous system and good, and then I had something happen, like that one event happened, and then from that on I wasn't sleeping,
right?
That person has a better chance of having a quick fix.
Okay.
But it's still the emotional well-being, the mindset, and the behaviors still the same. It's just we're going to use the exact same technique, but that person doesn't have like all that baggage with it. And so I've seen people actually just have an event happen in their life that made them lose sleep. And then it's not the event that's keeping them from not sleeping after. It's the, oh my God, I'm afraid I'm not going to sleep because that night was horrible.
Oh, okay.
And then we can use tapping on all of that and rewire the brain quite quickly. So there are times when it can be a quicker fix with sleep. It depends on what the root cause was, though.
Okay.
And they're like maybe 2% of the people.
Right.
But it is possible.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So, and when you're working with people with sleep disorders, and I don't know if disorders is the right word, but sleep issues, whatever you're calling it, what are some of the typical symptoms?
So it's interesting because people don't come to me if they've had a few bad nights sleep. Right. I usually get the people that haven't been able to sleep for 7 years, or for 30 years. One lady was like 30 years she hadn't really slept. And so I would say the common thing for all of them is a dysregulated nervous system. And if you ever look at anything that Irene Line does, she's a nervous system expert. She's a huge YouTube channel with lots of information. And I've taken some of her courses in depth to learn more about the nervous system for myself, right? Because I had a very dysregulated nervous system from probably the moment I was born. So I've been re-regulating my own nervous system. But when I look at, if I was to take all the people that I have worked with, it has all been the emotional well-being that has kept them awake. Not many people do I work with that is because of their behavior. Like, the behavior gets bad because they're trying to figure out how to sleep, but it's not what started their lack of sleep. It's all emotional well-being. So anxiety, depression, complex PTSD, those kind of things. Now, I'm not a mental health professional. Therefore, if someone has some of those things, like we're going to do the coaching part of it, and I can do that, but knowing that they need someone to support their mental health diagnosis along with me doing the coaching on sleep, right? So there's two parts to that. But most people who aren't sleeping is because of anxiety, stress, lifestyle, in a sense of living a very busy lifestyle. So I wouldn't say people come to me because of disorders, because there's really just three things with sleep: not able to fall asleep, waking up in the middle of the night, and waking up tired and not refreshed. And so someone can have all three of those, or someone can just have a hard time falling asleep, or someone can just sleep all night, but then they're waking up exhausted, so they're not getting refreshing sleep. So we look at all that, but there's not an actual disorder that I would say I work with. It's more, it's the same for everyone. It's different and the same for everyone.
Okay.
So it really depends on what they're trying to do.
Okay. And so when your clients have anxiety and stress related sleep, are there some techniques or strategies? I know that you use EFT. And are there other things that they can do to calm down or manage that stress before bedtime?
Right. And so this question goes back to, it begins the moment you wake up.
You can wake up, right?
Right. That's when it begins. And so I'll tell you how, like, what my process has been. And this has been from years of like thinking about sleep. How does it work? How do we make it better? Because I'm always still wanting to make my sleep better. Like, I sleep good, I'm going to say 95% of the time. But there are times when I'm just not going to sleep. If I was triggered by something, or if something happened that was dysregulating for me in that day, I'm not going to sleep. But I'm okay with that. My mindset is such now as I know I'm not going to sleep. But I forgot the question.
Oh, the question was, there was just some ways to manage that stress and anxiety before they go to bed.
And that's where we'll go, but I just,
yeah, that's okay.
And so this is my kind of like steps, but they're not linear. They can be in any kind of way. So first we have to bring regulation to the nervous system. So we've got to expand the capacity of our nervous system. And that's what I teach in my program, right? We really start with orienting, which orienting is different than meditation. Meditation, when you're meditating, you're really going inwards. You're like focusing on your internal environment. But when someone is not sleeping, that internal environment is not very good. And so trying to meditate actually backfires. And so I teach them orienting, which is focusing on our external environment. And as we focus on the external environment, what we're wanting to say to ourselves and repeat to ourselves is like, oh, in this moment, I'm safe. Because if we're not sleeping, our nervous system somehow has this idea, and it's not conscious, that it's not safe to go to sleep. Because if I go to sleep, something bad might happen. So we want to start going, okay, like I'm looking around my room, my feet are on the floor, I can feel my butt on the chair. We can use the 5 senses to do this. On my YouTube channel, people, you can even link it if you wish. There's an external orienting tapping. So I have taken this orienting technique, added tapping to it. And then as we do that, we also start looking and building a list of our resources. For me, my blanket. I never sit here without a nice blanket on my lap, because if I find I need a little bit of like comfort, it's right there. And so having comfort to allow us to express these emotions. So that's the beginning. Once we can build this capacity, and in the training video in my program, I explain that in depth, what it means to be able to feel your emotions more. Then we get to, now I can use tapping on the emotions that are coming up to release or transform what's happening. And as this is happening, then my mindset starts changing. And my mindset changes too. And then we have some exercises where, okay, like if my belief is it's not possible for me to sleep, how do we tap through that belief and do a belief flip on that? Which are techniques that I kind of teach people, like, and even journaling on, why do I believe that? And sometimes just getting that stuff out, all of a sudden our mind will go, well, wait a minute, I used to be a good sleeper. So you bring that back to the surface. And then we work on the behaviors. So we start with like orienting, bringing safety, we add the tapping, we change the mindset, the beliefs, and then we get into the behavior. So it's kind of like the process I take people through. Did that answer that question?
It did. And I'm also thinking people are asking what can they do themselves besides all of that, which they need more help with.
Yeah.
Like darkening the room, some other things that they could do in their physical environment.
Right. And darkening the room, or like, I mean, you can get nice pillows, you can darken the room, you can do all those things. And if you don't have a regulated nervous system, it's not going to do anything.
Okay.
And so if someone has anxiety, they need to deal with the anxiety. And this is where I'm different than most people because, yes, darkening the room helps, but it won't if that's not the root cause of you not being able to sleep. So, what can people do to actually help themselves is, I would say, for them to take, what's that word I'm looking for? Just go through their day and see where the stress was. And could they have delegated something to someone, or could they have taken something off their to-do list that really wasn't important to do? Or could they have decided to say no to something because they didn't have the capacity to do it instead of overriding their level of energy that they have, more than making the room dark? Because I don't really like sleep hygiene tips.
Okay. Okay.
Because they can lead people to think there's something wrong with them when they do all these things and they still can't
Still
sleep.
can't sleep. Okay.
But I love sleep hygiene tips at the same time because they do help you get better quality sleep. So it depends on where you are in your sleep issues. And so I also have this journey to better sleep roadmap that I show my clients, like, on this roadmap, where are you, which is poor sleep to good sleep. And so if I'm in the middle where I'm having good sleep, and yeah, the right hand is awesome sleep. If I'm in the good sleep part, then those curtains would help me.
Okay.
Right. It would help me then, depending on where I am on that roadmap. And so it really is an individual assessment of the person. And that's why I don't like giving the sleep tip of making your room darker, because that could actually lead someone to do that. And then they say, look,
Not.
I still can't sleep. Well, of course not, because it's your stress level. It's not the fact that the room wasn't dark enough.
Right.
That
Okay.
makes sense.
It does. It does. And so, something that you said earlier, if people, if people keep track of or assess their stress level, and so I do have clients keep track of what's their 3 highest stressors and then 3 ways to relax. And so I hear you saying if you can assess your stress level and then delegate or pull back. If I have a hard time saying no, so I'm volunteering all the time and all of a sudden I can't sleep because there's too many things going on. And so the joke is to paint the word no on my forehead, but that I can't see that, so that doesn't help. But to things like that, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying, is to keep track of that and do
yeah.
something about that, what you can?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And the word no needs to be heard more, especially from women. I don't want to say men against women, but women, like it's our genetics. It's how society works. Women do a lot more. And it's not true. Some men do a lot, but it's just been my experience. So here's a limiting belief, right?
Mhm.
Painted from my experience. And yeah, we have to learn how to say no. And I have a video on this, you will fix your sleep when the pain of not sleeping is greater than the pain of saying no,
Oh, say
right?
that again.
You will fix your sleep when the pain of not sleeping is greater than the pain of what you have to stop doing.
Yes.
So if it's painful for me to say no to my friends who want to go out every night of the week and stay up till 2 in the morning, if like my internal pain to saying no is like, oh, they'll reject me or they don't, I will keep doing that until the pain of not sleeping is greater. And then I will set the boundary and say, I can go out, but only till 10 or only till 11. and then I'll start setting boundaries. But if the pain of not sleeping isn't greater, so another example that might be more relevant is I have this job, and this was me in my job before I switched careers. I needed to fix everybody's pay problems because I was a business analyst and we had put on a new pay system and it backfired. And so everybody's paychecks were messed up. Well, the pain of not fixing that for me, knowing that I'm a sensitive empath person. So knowing all these people were going without pay and possibly losing their homes, and that pain of not fixing their pay issue was greater than me not sleeping until I lost sensation in my hands and feet. And then the pain of not sleeping was greater because I was losing my health than other people's well-being. Do you see what the difference there was?
I do.
I had to reach rock bottom.
Yes, and that leads me into another question that we didn't have on our list, but what are some symptoms then of hitting rock bottom? Like you had your hands and feet,
Oh no.
neuropathy or whatever they called it. And I would never, well, I shouldn't say never, but to associate that with a lack of sleep, that's pretty severe stuff. And
Yeah.
are there some symptoms that I could recognize before it got that serious that I would do something about my sleep?
Yeah. And so, well, for the people who really struggle with sleep, like that question would be like, I just can't sleep. And though they're waking up exhausted, um, other things that I did that I go back now and think, oh my God, like I drove to work one day and parked my car in a place that I never park. Like, so I always parked on Fitzroy Street and I parked it somewhere else. And I came out through the day because I needed my cry because I was so overwhelmed. And that's a way to release and keep going, is just go have a little cry outside and come back in and work. And I walked by this car and went, that's like my car. Oh, look, they got the same campground sticker as mine. And then I was like, oh man, that's my car. Who parked my car there? So if you're driving somewheres and you don't remember driving there, that's a serious sign of sleep deprivation. And very dangerous to be on the road. Like,
Right.
can you imagine, right? Like I go back now and I go, I can't believe, but in that time I didn't realize there was an issue. So you forget things easily, you have brain fog constantly, you can't concentrate. I'm very, like with my new clients, we go very slow because the information doesn't absorb in their brain because they're not getting that REM sleep, right? They're not getting the mental restoration. They're getting enough sleep for their physical body to restore itself until they don't. So at the beginning, the physical symptoms aren't there, it's the mental symptoms, the brain fog, the maybe dizziness. They could have dizziness, or their emotions are really out of whack.
Yeah.
They're more sensitive, right? So a little thing that would not bother us normally then starts bothering us, but that's because we haven't had enough sleep. And a lot of it, then there's resentment that comes in, and all these emotions we're not used to feeling then all of a sudden bubble to the surface from lack of sleep.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yes, yes. And so we've talked a lot about the issues and what's causing it and some of the symptoms. Can you share some success stories or memorable experience from yourself or working as a sleep coach?
Yeah. Oh, there was this one lady I was working with, and she hadn't slept for 30 years, like 30 years. And so she had had like a business and she had to let go of the business because of her lack of sleep. And she had had a lot of things happen. But she had tried everything, CBTI, medication, and all this. And she was on medication when we started working together. And I made sure that she would go with her doctor to slowly wean off them. And it took us a year, but you got to think she hadn't slept in 30. So it took us a year. And I'll always remember the morning I got an email from her. So there's two things I want to share with her. She sent me an email and she's like, I slept 6 hours last night in a row, like 6 solid hours. And so we celebrated that. And I bring in celebration, like when something good happens. And then she had this thought that I don't need my sleeping medication anymore. And so the curious questions I brought in, like, so what does it feel like to not need them? What kind of person would not need them? And it was all this powerful, strong energy that was coming out. So we celebrated, and I'm like, so what would a person like that do? And she's like, she would flush them down the toilet. And I was like, cool, when are you going to do that? And she's like, after we get off the call. And I'm like, and how are you going to be accountable for that? I'm going to send you a video. So an hour after, I had a video of her flushing down her sleep pills in the toilet because she no longer needed them. And so we made a celebration and an event out of her holding this good. I just even got goosebumps again thinking it, her celebrating. Now, if she had said to me, I'm just not going to take those darn things anymore, we would not have done that. Right?
Right.
Energy behind it would have been like, I'm just not going to take those anymore. It wasn't a helpful, uplifting energy. So that's kind of one. And then a lady, so when I started this, so Tammy is her name, and she gives me full permission to share her story. When I started and thought, can I help people fix their sleep? This lady had come to one of my like workshops just on EFT, and she told me she couldn't sleep. And I reached out to her and I said, so I'll do this for free if you humor me and see if I can help people sleep. She hadn't slept in 7 years. She had had a surgery gone bad. After her surgery, she had lost her job because she couldn't work anymore. Like the surgery, like the doctor cut her artery or something and like almost lost her on the table when it should never happen. Like it was a medical something. Anyway, and then her husband had left her and she was living in her parents' basement and she wasn't able to sleep till like 4 a.m. before she could fall asleep. So we started this journey of tapping. And so this was 7 years ago. And we did probably 13 private sessions. And then she joined other stuff I was doing. She took it, like, even though she wasn't paying, she really put the work in. 7 years later, she still gives me an update once in a while. She is still sleeping. She now has a new man in her life. Her niece and nephews are coming over. She's not having to try to go to sleep. And then her brother one time had said, no, don't bother her in the morning. You know, she needs to sleep in the morning. And she had felt bad that she wasn't able to be with her niece, right? She was missing out on life because of her sleep issues. But man, she took the homework seriously and she tapped through all the events and she tapped through the feelings. And it was just that moment in one of our sessions when she's like, well, I have nothing to wake up for. And we were tapping, even though I have nothing to wake up for. And she goes, well, wait a minute. I can wake up for me. I can actually wake up in the morning for me. And she went from that belief flip to going to bed at 10 o'clock that night and never going to bed any later than 10 after. And then she didn't tell me for 2 weeks because she wanted to make sure that she was still going to bed at 10 because she was afraid that it was going to flip back. And it never did 7 years later. So she's another great success story for me, that when you do the work and when you commit to the work and you're willing to look at your emotional state and make the changes in your life, it's possible, but you have to be willing to do the work.
Right. How great is that? Those are great success stories. That's wonderful. So,
and then I want to give you though some failure stories.
Okay.
Because we never talk about the failure stories, right? So there's a lot of people I work with that don't sleep still. And I'll tell you why, is because the pain of not sleeping isn't greater yet than the pain of what they're going through. And some of them will actually tell me, I know if I did what you told me to do that I would sleep, and that's exactly why I won't do it. And then when we get curious with that, it's because one person specifically said, because we're always looking for root cause, right? If he actually fixed his sleep, then he would have to put more effort into what he does and the expectations that people would put on him. He doesn't want to be looked up or do more than what he's doing. And now his lack of sleep is giving him the reason to not take on extra jobs. And so he needs to build his ability to say no.
Right.
But he's so afraid of disappointing someone. And that comes from childhood, right? That's energy from childhood. He's so afraid of disappointing someone that he will keep his sleep issues instead. And so just because they work with me doesn't mean they're going to fix their sleep. I don't fix people's sleep. I give them the journey that they can take to fix their sleep. So it's important to say that there's a lot of failure stories as well. And I don't hide from them because it's nothing that I've done. It's just they're not ready yet to do the work that it takes to fix your sleep long term. They want a quick fix. And a few rounds of tapping is not going to give you that
Right.
sleep you're looking
Right.
for.
I always say to myself, before and after I work with a client, I am not going to take the credit nor the blame for their
Or to blame.
success.
Yeah.
It's totally up to them. We can give them the tools, we can help them stay accountable, we can help celebrate. But I've had clients just drop off and they may want to blame me. Most of them don't. Most of them know they're just not willing to put in the work that it takes. If someone needs to lose 50 pounds, that's not going to happen overnight. And sleep is a big issue. When they're overweight, sleep is an issue. One client has sleep apnea and they know it's due to her weight. But until she's ready, like you said, until the pain is so awful that they finally decide it's greater.
And some people don't notice the pain because it's their normal.
Right.
It's their everyday life, so they don't know the difference. And so, if we take an example, I'm going to use my husband in this example. Monday to Friday, that man, we've been together for 28 years. He will eat his oatmeal and his eggs for breakfast. And then he will have his apple, his banana, and his protein shake after the gym. And then he will have a decent supper. Weekend, free for all. And he's done this. And on a week vacation where we eat whatever, he can't wait to get back to eggs and oatmeal because he knows how good he feels.
Right.
He's not doing it for weight loss. He's not doing it for all that. And he says, I don't know how people don't want to eat healthy like this because you feel so good.
Right.
I say it's because people don't know that feeling good because they never have felt it.
Right.
And therefore, all they know is this. And we know our nervous system, our mind will want us to keep doing what it knows. Because that's what's comfortable to the nervous system, not because that's what's right, because that's comfortable. That's what it knows.
Right.
And therefore, it wants to keep, like my client, my failure story. It was more comfortable for him to know the lack of sleep. That way he didn't have to show up in the world the way that was uncomfortable for him.
Right.
So that was more uncomfortable. Right?
Yeah. That awareness would take a while to get to that point, I'm sure.
Take a while,
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, that's really helpful. So can you recommend any books or websites or resources for the folks that are watching these videos to help them improve their sleep? I know you mentioned Irene Line as one.
Yeah, so I will mention Irene Lyon. She is probably the place I would send most people to.
Can you spell her last name for me?
Lyon.
Okay.
So
and I will link these. I will link these.
IreneLyon.com. She has a lot of free resources. What I like about her though, and not everybody will like her, but what I like about her, she tells it like it is. And she talks about the nervous system in the way that we can then understand. And she really believes that we should be educated in how our body functions in order to be able to understand. Like when I'm with my clients and they're telling me that they had this big blow up with their partner because their lack of sleep, then we go, well, what happened within the nervous system? Mm-hmm. And once you understand how the nervous system works, you can have compassion instead of judgment towards yourself for having had a blow up or not being able to sleep. So she's my first place I would tell people to go look. I have a full YouTube channel too. My YouTube channel's been going for like over a year. A lot of these questions actually would be really good videos for me to do. But I have on my channel, I have sleep education, I have nervous system education, and I have some tapping scripts that people can follow along. Okay. There's also my free resource tab on my website that people can go look. There's not a whole lot there, but it's growing as I do stuff, so people can go and see that. And I don't recommend books.
Okay.
I had an email once from Brad Yates. He's big into the tapping world. Was on Gene Monterostelli's 24 Hours of Tapping, and then Brad Yates sent me an email saying, I really enjoyed your talk. Did you ever hear about the book, Why We Sleep? He says, the funny thing is that book actually made me lose sleep. because a lot of these books are written in the way that if you don't sleep, these are the bad things that are going to happen to you.
Oh,
Right. And so what happens then, people read that and they get, oh my God, I really have to fix my sleep. And it makes them want to. And so I read them and I pull out what's good out of them and I share that in my YouTube channel.
mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't recommend books, because I haven't found a sleep book yet that is written in a positive, hopeful way. Maybe that's the book I need to write one day.
I was going to say that maybe you need to write that one.
But that's why I don't recommend books. Now, if people want to read the books and are able to not get caught up in the desperation energy of needing to fix their sleep right away, there's a lot of good information in there. But I don't have a recommended one.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
And my question was, where can the listeners find out more about you, and what is your website?
So my website is sleepsuccessacademy.com.
Okay.
And so if they Google that, so they can there's a sleep support page where they can look at other stuff. I have some tapping meditation they can purchase, and I have like my programs and stuff, or they can just book a call with me. And so when they book a call with me, I give them half hour of my time. It's free. And I just kind of listen to what they're saying. And I've had people book a call and like, I can just say, oh yeah, you just need to do this. And then like they fix their sleep.
Right.
Right. I have this ability to pick stuff out. I don't know how. I've always been that way. That's why I was so good at my job before that I burnt out at, because I can just kind of pull that one thing out. And so that's one way. But if people want to just learn about sleep, I would recommend my YouTube channel. So it's just Carol Richard Sleep Coach.
Okay.
So much information on there. And the channel is growing. I mean, it's a fairly new channel. So, well, fairly new, like a year ago. But I'm truly enjoying making videos and hearing people's question and what they're wanting to know about sleep. And then I just start like searching, because one thing I had said to Brad Yates, because what the book had said to him is that 1 hour of missed sleep can cause irreparable damage to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Who needs to read that?
Right.
Right. And I said to him, I said, oh my God, I didn't sleep for years. And I am as smart and as bright and as alive. You look at me right now in this video and you tell me that I have irreparable damage to my brain.
Right.
Right. I'm like, no, because if I did, I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing. I wouldn't be able to. And actually the world would not function because nobody sleeps.
Right.
So
right.
don't the sleep books.
Scare tactics have never worked in any field. When I was a social worker, that scared straight program and all, none of those worked. And so that just makes you more scared, more fearful. And then you do not reach out for help because you're so scared. Yeah.
Yeah. And my belief is, and I hold this deeply in my heart, is I believe that anybody who really, really wants to fix their sleep, it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Not easy. It could be easy, but it is possible.
Right.
And, when we ask these questions, we're in a coaching world, right? We love questions. Right. What is my purpose in life? And I could never answer that question before. And now I'm like, what if my purpose was just to talk about sleep? How cool would that be? And what if I could just wake up in the morning and Wayne Dyer has this question and says, how can I serve today?
Right.
Well, how can I serve today so that people can understand that it's possible for them to fix their sleep?
Right.
And that's kind of my new mantra. Like, I know it's possible. Look at me. Like if you would talk to my husband, he would say, like, I'm not the same person at all. I sleep well. I prioritize my sleep. I value my sleep. I just, it's possible.
Oh, that's great. Oh, this has been wonderful, Carol. I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me and answer all these questions. Is there anything else that I didn't touch on or didn't ask you that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. I think, just to say again that fixing someone's sleep, or we're going to change the word fixing. I don't like that, because it means something's broken, and we're not broken. We're just out of balance. But to improve the quality of our sleep, it really needs to look at all three emotional components, or all three components to better sleep, which is your emotional well-being, your mindset and your behaviors. And if you get into a program that doesn't look at all three, like cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, then search for something else. Like just know that, okay, if they're only going to look at my behaviors, what about my emotions? What about my mindset? Because if they don't look at that, you're just going to fail again. And then you will be even worse because you'll think I'm really broken. There's really something wrong with me. So follow your gut instinct when you're looking for someone to support you on your journey to better sleep, right? Is this person talking from experience? Is this person, I don't know how many clients I've had that they did CBTI and the person they had never had sleep issues.
Right.
So when they would say, oh, I feel this, they would say, oh, well, you're not supposed to. I no, like, right? So
Right.
really, I don't need to be the one helping them on their journey to better sleep. But when they connect with someone, they should feel that instant, yeah, this person can help me. And if I don't have that instant, then keep looking for someone else, because you need to be able to attune to the person that's going to help you.
Right. Right. I agree. We definitely need to recognize our strengths, but also the areas where we're not proficient in. I sleep really well. I sleep too much sometimes. And so that's why I wanted to interview you as part of this course, my 12-week course, and get the experts' advice and some resources. And so we will definitely link your website and your YouTube and all of you have so much free information. You are such a giving person, and I really appreciate that. So thanks for taking the time.
You're welcome.